take a look at the first full-blooded Sioux Indian to receive the Medal of Honor. Welcome to Army Newswatch. I'm Sergeant Pete Mays.
And I'm Sergeant Raymond Flores. We'll see how the National Guard soldiers handled the challenges of Exercise Balikatan in the Philippines. But first, let's take a look at what's going on around the Army.
People are not in the Army, people are the Army, and the 2009 Army budget reflects that reality. Secretary Pete Guerin stressed that point while justifying the $149 billion budget request to Congress. While operations and maintenance costs consume the majority of the budget, Secretary Guerin noted the request doubles the funding for family programs. It also supports housing initiatives and better health care for soldiers and their families.
They're volunteer soldiers, they're volunteer families, they're proud of who they are, and they're proud of what they do.
Energy use by Army families living in new privatized housing has dropped by as much as 10%. Officials credit the decrease to the soldiers responsible for their utilities program. Under the program, soldiers get a monthly statement informing them about how much gas and electricity their family consumes. Soldiers must pay out of pocket for energy use beyond a preset baseline, but families that end up using less energy than expected get a rebate check.
The Army has begun steps to establish both the command and contracting campaign plan to help improve Army contracting. The Army Contracting Command will include an expeditionary command, which will be able to deploy and increase the Army's oversight of contracting in theater. Acting Under Secretary of the Army Nelson Ford said the two initiatives will help centralize Army contracting, identify any continuing problems, and resource it adequately.
Sergeant First Class Brian Letterly was prepared to stay in the Army indefinitely, but he wanted to make sure his last re-up would be one to remember. Captain Lauren Glaze read the oath of re-enlistment as they both got a view of Iraq via Black Hawk helicopter.
Soldiers preparing to separate from the military have a new online option to the Army Career and Alumni Program. The new service, ACAP Express, allows soldiers to use the internet to register for ACAP services, schedule a wide range of classes, and use online tools to create resumes and cover letters. Previously, these services were only available once a soldier scheduled them in person at an installation office. Soldiers can now go online at any time from any location to acapexpress.army.mil. Log on using your AKO account to schedule appointments.
It's time to give a big Army hood to the stations that bring Army Newswatch into your home, especially to SCC TV 14 throughout Clinton County, North Carolina.
And Track 7, Proctor, Minnesota. Thanks for watching. Don't go away. We head to the Philippines for Exercise Balikatan 2008.
Plus, 26 years after his death, a soldier receives the Medal of Honor. Stay with us.
Hello, I'm Sergeant First Class Mushala. Your vote is important because your voice can only be heard if you take action. Let your voice be heard by casting your vote. It makes a difference. Remember, wherever you are, it's not too late to vote. If you have questions, see your voting assistance officer. Be smart. Do your part. Vote.
What can I buy with 2 rectangles?
A bus ride.
You're right. Good job, honey.
When you talk with your child, you build vocabulary, and learning starts long before school does. For more tips, go to bornlearning.org.
Hello. Yes. Can I ask a few questions about the apartment on Park Street?
What was your name?
My name is Juan Hernandez.
It's been rented.
Oh, it's gone. Hello, my name is Sanjay Kumar. I am calling about the apartment on Park Street.
It's not available.
Not available? Hello, my name is Tyrone Washington. I'm calling about the apartment on Park Street.
Just been rented.
Hello, I am Chen Ling. My name is Khalid bin Ali. I'm Tuan Vo. Hello, my name is Moshe Goldberg. I use a wheelchair. It's gone. Not available. All right. Thank you. Yes, hello, my name is Graham Wellington. I'm calling about the apartment for rent on Park Street. Is that still available?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Really?
Housing discrimination is illegal. If you think you've been a victim because of your race, color, national origin, sex, religion, disability, or family status, call us. Fair housing. It's not an option. It's the law.
Welcome back. More than 6 decades after his heroic actions in the Korean War, the late Master Sergeant Woodrow Keeble finally received his just due. President Bush presented the Medal of Honor to Keeble's family, making him the first full-blooded Sioux Indian to receive the nation's highest military award. What also makes this honor so special is the long, hard-fought battle Keeble's family and fellow tribesmen waged to get him the medal. The nomination paperwork was lost twice, and the family was told the deadline had passed.
The Sioux have a saying, the life of a man is a circle. Well, today we complete Woody Keeble's circle. From an example to his men, to an example for the ages. And if we honor his life and take lessons from his good and noble service, then Master Sergeant Woody Keeble will serve his country once again.
Russell Hawkins, Keeble's stepson, accepted the award on his behalf 26 years after his death.
And I asked him, how long did it take you to eliminate those 2 trenches full of enemy soldiers and those 3 bunkers? And in my mind, I thought he was going to say seconds. He just ran here and ran there and ran over here. But it didn't. It took him between 2 and 3 hours.
Crafted from the hard lessons in Iraq and Afghanistan, the Army released an updated version of its Field Manual on Operations, or FM 3-0. I had a chance to talk with the Army's Chief of Staff on the top 3 contributions of the new doctrine.
The first is elevating stability operations to the level of offense and defense. You know, before, when you went through it, you conducted your offensive operations, then you transitioned to stability operations. It's all part of one now. And the recognition is that you have to be able to provide a stable environment for economic and political development to take place to be ultimately successful.
Second, lay an intellectual framework for the commander's involvement to solve military problems.
Where commanders first have to understand the complex issues that they're dealing with. Second, they have to visualize it in a way that enables them to describe it to their subordinates so that they can direct the executions of plans and orders.
General Casey hopes this takes the Army away from a process-focused decision-making method.
Move us to a more intellectual process for solving hard military problems.
Third, the manual highlights the importance of information in the 21st century environment.
And the one point that hasn't changed, the immutable, is that soldiers remain the centerpiece of the Army, and they will remain our ultimate asymmetric advantage.
General Casey says the manual is designed to spur debate on how we fight, and that the Army will use FM 3-0 to adapt how we will develop our equipment, training, and our leaders. For more on the Army's Operations Field Manual, visit the Army's homepage at army.mil.
On March 1st, the Army began a change in health care for wounded soldiers and service members. An Army official said the new 6-phase comprehensive care plan will help the Army not only heal a soldier's injury, but make sure its wounded warriors are healed in body, mind, heart, and spirit. The plan also aims to increase the chances they'll return to duty or successfully transition to civilian life.
Healthcare can take many forms. For the 555th Forward Surgical Team based in Jalalabad, Afghanistan, they don't just care for the troops. While service members are always their top priority, they also extend care to local nationals. Sergeant Nathan Bowen has more.
3 boys arrive unexpectedly on a Thursday. Minutes before, they'd been playing together and discovered an object lying around. Like so many other cases, the object turned out to be a UXO. It exploded, seriously wounding them. The team of medics and surgeons quickly begin treatment. They take vital signs, work quickly to assess the patient's injuries.
What's the number on this guy?
And do what they can to repair the damage. Everyone has a job to do, and no time is wasted in getting to it.
We already know how we're going to run things and what we're going to do. So each doc goes to their bed, each medic goes to their spot and does their job.
From the outside, the atmosphere in the building seems hectic. In reality, every movement has a purpose as the members of the team coordinate with each other to provide the children with the best possible care. Comforting them during this time is important.
We want to give them a calm, authoritarian presence, especially with pediatric cases. Reassure the patient that no matter what's going on with them, you are there to take care of them.
2 of the boys are stabilized and ready for further treatment. The third succumbs to his injuries, despite the extraordinary efforts of the staff.
He's done. Called.
They all know that not everyone can be saved. The men and women of the 555th are as professional and well-trained a team as any combat unit could hope for. Week in and week out, They constantly train and work to make sure they're ready for the next patient who may need care. Army Sergeant Nathan Bowen, Jalalabad, Afghanistan.
Still to come, find out why this man held a grudge against the government for nearly 70 years.
And soldiers take on new challenges in the Philippines.
Don't go away. More of the stories that make America's Army are up next.
Do you know that stroke targets by color? Odds are, if you're African American, you're twice as likely to suffer a stroke as white Americans. Know where you stand, because beating the odds isn't about winning, it's about living. Join the power to end stroke at strokeassociation.org.
What is your problem, man?
You're welcome.
What the heck is wrong with you?
What do you mean?
Don't give me that. All right. What's going on here, fellas?
The missile was about to hit the school. I just acted as fast as I could.
That doesn't change the fact that I don't have a car anymore. Who just throws a person's car at a missile?
You're serious?
Yeah. Who's going to pay for my car?
I guess I could.
Do you even have a real job?
Yes.
Do you have insurance?
I saw the whole thing. Call me.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Have you been a dad today?
Welcome back. Filipino soldiers are testing some U.S. soldiers at an Army base in the Philippines. At Exercise Balikatan 2008, Specialist Victor Gardner talked with one soldier about what he learned in a completely different environment.
Okay.
Your next top.
And cook it.
Would you eat a snake?
It's still pumping, see?
Would you slide down a rope 100 feet if it meant life and death? These were just some of the elite Special Forces training at Fort Magsaysay, Philippines during Balikatan 2008. Army National Guard soldiers are here from Guam and New Mexico in a combined training exercise with Filipino Army and Special Forces. Staff Sergeant Joshua Piper talks about the experience.
Oh, it was pretty tough. By the end of the course, I was pretty smoked and tired, but it was a lot of fun.
Ready! Go!
The exercise included a jungle course in which they learned how to set traps for animals and enemy forces alike. They also learned how to survive by eating snakes and leaves. The most important thing they experienced was the bonds established with the Filipino Army soldiers.
We'll build better relations between us and our allies here in the Southeast Asia. So I think better for everybody, fighting the same war, just build a little more cohesion between countries.
Even though the soldiers are from different climates and countries, that didn't stop them from sharing their valuable jungle survival skills. Reporting for Combined Joint Information Bureau, Balikatan 2008 Public Affairs, I'm Specialist Victor Gardner.
The Active First program has its first graduate. Private Raymond Laurie enlisted through Active First last October and graduated one-station unit training at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri last month. Through the program, National Guard recruits can serve up to 48 months of active duty with the option of continuing an active duty career or returning to their Guard unit. Bonuses up to $60,000 are available through the program. For more information about Active First program, go to 1-800-GO-GUARD.com/ActiveFirst.
Military operations in Iraq are dramatically reducing enemy forces. In our next report, Gail McCabe takes us to a planning mission where Iraqi and U.S. forces are working together to defeat the enemy.
Combating enemy presence is the focus of current offensive operations, joint affairs of coalition and Iraqi security forces. Reportedly, the ISF is emerging as a primary player in strategy aimed at ridding Iraq of its enemies.
3rd Battalion will start from
Operation Iron Harvest, for instance, in Diyala province, is the result of operational planning between top Iraqi commanders and their counterparts in the coalition forces. Here at FOB Normandy, Major General Mark Hertling, Commander, Multinational Division North, and Lieutenant General Ali, Commanding General Iraqi Ground Forces Command, are both committed to eradicating the terrorism network. He says the beginning of 2008 is the end of terrorism in Diyala, his birthplace. Ali says we will follow the terrorists into all the provinces. The surge has created a window of opportunity, a chance to put an end to violence.
The biggest challenge is still pursuing the enemy, both Al-Qaeda and other extremist groups. But the thing we've got on our side is I think most of the great majority of the Iraqi people are seeing the potential for things to happen better in the future, and they're helping us out.
What's understood by all is that the people of Iraq want a part in their future, a future where the need for fighting is gone and where peace and security have taken its place. Gail McCabe, Iraq.
Military leaders have long understood the importance of getting a bird's-eye view of the battlefield. The same holds true today in Iraq. Air Force Sergeant Lee Bellinger introduces us to some soldiers who like to work in the shadows.
The battlefield can be a confusing place. That's why it's reassuring when troops on the ground hear a distant buzz high above their heads.
It's a key element in providing reconnaissance, allowing the troops to see beyond what they normally be able to see from the ground.
It is the U.S. Army's Shadow unmanned aerial vehicle. The Shadow provides commanders on the ground with real-time video from above.
They can't see beyond a 10-foot wall, but we can see for them. We can see snipers on buildings. We can provide them the eye in the sky that they wouldn't have otherwise.
And the nerve center for the Shadow, the back of a Humvee, where the enlisted UAV operators man the controls.
My job pretty much entails launching the aircraft, flying it in the mission, working the camera, and landing the thing.
And it's a one-of-a-kind situation for this Shadow team here, since they belong to the only Special Troops Battalion in the Army to own battle space.
As a UAV platoon in that Special Troops Battalion, we have the opportunity to work directly with ground troops, talking to them on communications. The pilot can literally talk to the ground troops, which is really significant for a Shadow platoon.
And that ability makes life on the ground that much better and safer for their soldiers. Air Force Sergeant Lee Bellinger, Cobb Spiker, Iraq.
Coming up, the Army recognizes the community for the sacrifices they made nearly 7 decades ago.
And find out how the Corps of Engineers is improving life for single soldiers. We'll be right back.
Any questions?
No.
You know.
We're not magicians, we can't read your mind.
We need your questions, each and every kind.
Will this react with my other medicine? Hey, what are all these tests even for?
Does your child have asthma? Did you know asthma attacks can be triggered by things like shower curtains, a child's blanket, even a teddy bear? Help prevent your child's asthma attacks. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS or visit noattacks.org to get the latest information and avoid the emergency room.
I don't want to feel like a fish with no water.
There is a better way to have fun with history. Visit americaslibrary.gov. Log on, play around, learn something.
Welcome back. The U.S. government established military bases around the country in the early 1940s in preparation for World War II. Most residents adjusted to the invasion of troops, tanks, and trucks. Others did not. James Williams has more.
In the 1940s, a new musical style was taking shape. It was distinctively acoustic. Its name, bluegrass.
I love bluegrass. Oh man, I love bluegrass.
The common theme of bluegrass songs is forgiveness, something that took Fred Cryer almost 70 years to find.
Well, I was real unhappy with the government.
In 1940, the government wanted to open a military base in Vernon Parish and needed land to do it.
But we had 30 days to move, and it was just so unfair.
Fred's family dismantled their home and moved it to a site about 4 miles away. The Cryer family called that place home for just half a year.
You know the reason we moved? The government run us off again.
Fred Cryer says he's not bitter for having to give up his home twice for his country. Bitter, though, because he and the other residents were never recognized for their sacrifices.
It was a terrible way for American citizens to be treated.
Alvin Locke grew up with Fred. He says they shared good times and bad.
They didn't seem to realize the hardships they was putting us through. If they had them, I think they would have appropriated more money for us to went with on account of that. That's a bad feeling the government put on me.
Fort Polk recently invited the displaced families and their relatives to a Heritage Day event at the installation. Garrison Commander Colonel David Sage says it was time for the Army to recognize the sacrifices people like Fred Cryer and Alvin Locke made for the nation.
Be told to get up and move one day, and you're going to be compensated very little for what's going on. I mean, that was a great sacrifice, and I think we're well overdue to honor that sacrifice.
Fort Polk unveiled memorial markers during the Heritage Day celebration, honoring those families.
It was just the tip of the iceberg for what the nation owes them. You know, if you look at the base of the monuments that we erected, the phrase says that we will not forget our heritage families, for they sacrificed their homes and way of life for the sake of a nation. And I don't think that could be better captured.
Well, at least somebody recognized the fact that we did sacrifice for it. There was a sacrifice made for them to have that out there.
On the day I visited Fred, we drove to a place he hadn't seen since 1940, the site where his home once stood.
The house was probably about the end of that asphalt.
Where his memories still live.
I feel pretty sure that this is the tree that was out in front of the house that my dad had backed into with the A model.
During the Heritage Day events, Colonel Sage gave Fred a commander's coin as a small token of appreciation for what Fred endured all those years ago.
It means a terrible lot to me. I'm so proud of that.
Fred Cryer says he'll never forget how the government forced him off his land, but at least he has found forgiveness. Might make for a good bluegrass tune. James Williams, Vernon Parish, Louisiana.
Fort Polk's Cultural Resources Management Branch has been collecting and preserving the family's histories, including photographs, birth and land records, and information on grave sites. Colonel Sage hopes the Army can one day turn the program over to the local community.
The Army is investing $40 billion in military construction over the next 5 years to build and refurbish facilities worldwide. Mary Cochran reports from Hawaii.
The Corps of Engineers is changing where and how soldiers and families live. It's the largest military construction budget since World War II, and it's a major upgrade in quality of life. If you run the numbers, it actually boils down to a $56,000 investment per soldier.
That investment benefits the entire Army. In Hawaii, significant strides have been made for those living at Schofield Barracks. These historic buildings, the quads, built in 1919, stood witness to the attack on Pearl Harbor. 88 years later, the quads still offered the amenities of an Army past.
One bathroom for 100 soldiers, basically, very little privacy. 6 or 7 showers for 100 soldiers.
Once home to 1,500, the quads now offer 1+1 living for 300 soldiers. 2 share a kitchen and a bathroom.
It's a big difference, 20 or 30 times nicer.
Modernizing these buildings while maintaining the historic integrity doesn't happen overnight.
It's been
going on for a little over 10 years, and it's actually over $1 billion. So what we're trying to do essentially is to improve the force protection for the barracks up at Schofield, as well as improve the quality of life for the soldiers.
Quality that affects more than 18,000 soldiers on Oahu. This barracks renewal is part of a larger $10 billion effort for soldiers across the Army. Mary Cochran, Hawaii.
The fairy tale win for Iraq in last summer's Asian Cup highlighted the importance of soccer for this war-torn country. Everywhere you go in Iraq, you see youngsters kicking a soccer ball. That's why an American living in Baghdad's international zone decided he was going to do his bit so that Iraqis have a ball to kick about, all while getting some exercise. Air Force Sergeant Lee Bellinger explains.
A beautiful morning in Baghdad's international zone, and Justin Porto is out for a run.
I always bring a soccer ball with me on runs, and I find that it gets me extra parts of my body get some good workout that you don't normally do when you're just going straight forward.
For the past 12 years, Justin has been combining running with soccer. After all, he's a youth soccer coach back home. So when he arrived in Iraq last summer, he decided to keep doing it. As one would expect, with an American dribbling a soccer ball around the IZ, he got some strange looks.
What I did after a while is I would pass the soccer ball to them. I would kick the ball ahead of me, near their feet, and it'd be amazing because they would just change. They would go from scowls and looks of astonishment to smiles, and they would engage and start either dribbling the ball themselves. Some just passed it back to me. Some would what we call juggle, where you kick the ball with your foot.
Now he even stops and plays some quick games of 3 versus 1.
It's amazing how the soccer ball caused changes in people's attitudes, just for a few minutes.
Word of Justin's soccer diplomacy spread, and now he's receiving balls from friends back home to give to the Iraqis he meets during his runs.
The police especially, they will juggle the ball there, and I feel like I wish I could stay there and, and actually get in a game with them, but I got to keep going.
He's decided to call it SAFE, soccer for American and Iraqi friends.
It's not going to change the world, but it's going to make, just for a few minutes, people smile and kind of forget the ravages of war.
One American with lots of energy and the help of a round ball, making life in Iraq a little better. Air Force Sergeant Lee Bellinger, Baghdad.
That sounds like some excellent PT.
Excellent indeed.
That does it for this edition of Army Newswatch.
Join us again next time for the stories that make America's Army.